Find one thing to move your business forward today with conversations, spotlights, interviews, articles, and free resources. Listen and follow and subscribe on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and don't forget Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, anywhere you listen to podcasts. You acted it out.
I did at that juncture.
And yes. That was first place.
I did. I won a blue ribbon, first place for that piece.
Nice.
So a lot happened that year, 8th grade.
And you also have a dedication to your father.
Yes, I do. I do. My Superman. Yes. And
right. Yeah, we didn't skip anything. That one was next.
So this is titled Perseverance. Ode to the modern day Superman, dedicated to Dad. Dust swirls fine as flour as you grace the surface of your arena. Fleet-footed, lapping every opponent prior to zealously ripping, shredding the finish line, marking the cadence of your race. Spectators applauding your approval, confirming victory at last. You ferociously touched down, flawlessly rendered each layup and scurried home, mutilating the base, alongside your compadres cheering you on after yet another score, redefining the essence of the four-letter man, reigning through the campaign of life amid the years. I recall your stately presence, gliding through the corridors of the Bernard Gentry Center, peering approvingly through the ajar doors as my peers and I harmonized to morning song. Among penmanship and pastel paintings, you, Father, faithfully, fearlessly, forever present, field excursions and all, available to my siblings and I, your pride and joy, who accepted the torch you'd gifted, coupled with priceless counsel on and off sidelines, fields, and courts. Despite the casualties you'd incurred from an employer involuntarily laid to rest, your armor remained unscathed and your majestic cloak untattered, valiantly defying the adversary of untimely circumstance at every turn, branding you as the unwavering hero I perceive you to be across time and space, the pinnacle of success, bearing the guise of a man glazed in resilience.
I underlined that last phrase.
Yes.
And I wonder if you want to say anything about that last line.
Yes.
Because bearing the guise of a man glazed in resilience.
Yes. Yes.
The pinnacle of success, bearing the guise of a man glazed in resilience.
Yes. So that's just my way of, my embellished way of illustrating him as, being that, to present day, to date, that hero. He has been that resilient, perseverant, tenacious personality, and he imparted that to me and my siblings as well. It is embedded in our DNA. And yes, I'm verbally chiseling him, being the masterpiece, the master architect, the master sculptor, I should say, of painting him in that light. Yes.
Well, we were going to follow closely with Dreams Undeferred, which specifically speaks to that last line, I think. But yes. I asked you to read this one now because I like it. I like having it in that spot following accolades to your mother. But let's still save Dreams Undeferred. Would you like to share your autobiography stories now?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Okay. So I'll begin with, and this is from the collaborative work And Still I Rise, basically spearheaded by Bridget Jurasuba. And the story that I've written is titled Until Further Notice. Until Further Notice. The temperature blazed amid the city, prompting Floridian natives to plunge into the watery, deep oceanic expanse. The haze and shade became progressively pronounced as the background deepened to highlight the iridescent metal voguing in the whistling heights. Meanwhile, I whisked through the opaque French doors embossed with dusky pink script, shed my Enzo Angelini stilettos, and slithered into lotus pose. Jenna's mindful declaration permeated the conscience of fellow members of the yoga session, inclusive of me. Hence, I vividly recall her eloquently executed lesson on the topic of inevitable impermanence, which I readily embraced. Upon skimming my retrospective and customized book of life, I've ingested and digested the core concept of impermanence, as I've incessantly spoken upon with grace and due comfort. So rather than campaigning against impermanence or change, I succumb and extract its benevolence and instructions nevertheless. Just as humans and water physically undergo their respective metamorphoses, so does the intangible. Personally, I can attest to this via my three great ones. None other than my utmost stellar romantic relationships bestowed in the wake of my young adulthood. Each pairing conclusively yielded a watercolor storybook romance, to say the least. Every love-drenched letter, verbal tango, and rendezvous between state lines apparently crystallized each of the aforementioned long-distance relationships until impermanence surfaced. This time, it bore the guise of deceit, betrayal, and loneliness, which compromised the foundation of each union. What I'd mutually forecasted as inevitably and infinitely unshakable, impermeable bonds had become negated. Not merely once, not twice, but thrice. Yet I prevailed despite my heartache and devastation. The recurring anthem, impermanence, eclipsed again amid my former marriage, projected as my happily ever after, via my then husband's extramarital affair with controlled substances, which mutilated our bond. Despite my agony, fever, and grief, I channeled the strength to execute the gift of goodbye. Moreover, I siphoned the good from this tumultuous chapter, God's divine favor, protection, and my eternal gratitude, coupled with my dearest son, Maximo. How often has one vowed to themselves, never ... fill in the blank, ellipses. In fact, how many times have we committed to what I classify as a final destination? Well, I personally concur with both the aforementioned, aside from my marital chapter as I illustrated previously. I recall my collegiate experience. In layman's terms, I had made up my mind to pursue and acquire my metallurgical engineering degree exclusively from the Illinois Institute of Technology, IIT. However, my fond friend and foe, impermanence, miraculously materialized, therefore altering my fate. Nevertheless, I pivoted out of IIT and engineering and sank into the arms of DePaul University and the realm of communications. Yes, yet I savor the effervescent memories of feats throughout that expedition. I smile inwardly as I reminisce upon commencing from my alma mater and plunging into the iridescent waters of freelance photojournalism, indeed another publicly declared career destination, only to pirouette into the arenas embodying American Transair, Dyson Inc., Florida State University, Miami-Dade Public Schools, the U.S. Department of Commerce, and Chapel Hill Carborough City Schools, to say the least. Yes, the cosmic storm of impermanence appeared in my career sector, prompting me to defy thyself once again. In most instances, my former employers held the autonomy of stamping my expiration date with their empires. As a result, I was forced to surrender to involuntary dismissal from their establishments, despite the blood, sweat, and tears I'd shed per each monumental cause. Once again, I avulsed the lesson, which sparked me to erect my existing entrepreneurial dynasty. The same impermanence holds true for my residential history. Cartwheeling from the bowels of Englewood, Chicago, strutting down to temperate, zesty Miami, Florida, a presumed final stop I thought I'd never outgrow, tumbling into the calm of Eden, North Carolina, prior to flipping to Chicago post-separation, before ultimately nosediving into the pristine and tranquil confines of Chapel Hill, North Carolina, where I rest today. Instead of sulking in dismay, I acquired carpe diem ideology and proceeded gracefully from episode to episode when necessary. Impermanence as of late. Part 2. The scarlet glare emanating from my Note 5 hosting the breaking news medium ripped me from my comatose slumber. Thus, I've been abruptly cast into a sea of bewilderment upon devouring the harsh pill of an incredulous presidential score for the Republican entity. I wallowed in the aura of perplexity which held me captive, imprisoned, dumbfounded on November 9th, 2016. Astonishment transcended to empathy, and empathy morphed into a whirlwind of mourning and betrayal upon digesting the anguish of the impending threat, the annihilation of an ironclad legacy spawned by God and bestowed to our authentic leader, President Barack Obama. Melodic harmony spewed lyrics from Seal's Dreaming in Metaphors, from amplified speakers throughout the cabin of my German import. This melancholic tune permeated my strained emotions, and the dual-edged sword of impermanence seized the stage once more. In this context, impermanence functioned as a vehicle of collective hatred, sexism, misogyny, and racism, to name a few, the former atmosphere of cohesiveness, ushered forth by racial America's pride and joy. President and Commander-in-Chief Barack Obama had become abruptly shattered. Unity had been rebuked by his abominable fear-mongering successor.
So check this out. My name's Elizabeth, host and producer of the Dear Business Coach podcast, and I'm bringing to you today a summary from an AI browser. What are your subscription benefits to the Dear Business Coach podcast? Subscribers to the email list receive a free magazine and weekly invites to live audio sessions with host Elizabeth Walker. Content focus, the podcast features insights from industry experts, coaches, and executives aimed at helping listeners to find actionable steps to advance their businesses. Live events. Listeners can participate in live audio events with Elizabeth, providing opportunities for direct engagement and learning. Advertising opportunities. Businesses can advertise on the Dear Business Coach podcast, reaching a targeted audience of entrepreneurs and business professionals. Subscribe to email now at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. Follow on social. Thanks so much for joining us.
Gloom, doom, darkness, and defeat now circumvented the climate spanning American parameters in lieu of presidential feats, which reigned over an 8-year interval. Dwindling hope took precedence, therefore strangling the soldered and welded spirit of the USA. Impermanence rendered the evidence of the unconventional physician, President Obama, who martyred to acupuncture the supple skin of a country afflicted with the ill demon of greed. I sobbed uncontrollably upon realizing he toiled tirelessly to spare a land entrenched with lust for dismal power of its sins. Political unrest dominated the land, oozing proverbial milk and honey. So now what has transpired? Here lies the aftermath. A revitalized economy limps while stock plummets to incredulous lows. Melanated people have become doused in paranoia upon the prospect of deportation. The LGBT community, adjacent to women nationwide, stand mortified while gazing at the wall of uncertainty in its naked eyes. Stability has become upset by an astronomical state of flux. A plethora of relationships, including marital unions, have weathered the torrential storm induced by this adversity, the 2016 presidential election. After all, adversity is the abrasive indicator, which evokes and/or challenges impermanence itself. In some instances, relationships have become reinforced, whereas utmost sound unions lie at the threshold of cessation, failure, and unfortunately divorce. Such has become the latest reality by virtue of the turbulent waters caused by political discord. Families, friends, husbands, wives, households, and businesses and business relationships severed and or divided. Given the state of affairs, many ask, so how shall we proceed? Some question whether to hold or fold, feast or endure famine, fight or to flee international soil. My response is to resume and adopt a synchronized carpe diem perspective, my habitual mode of operation. In my humble opinion, this is not an apocalypse, yet another scenario in which we must emerge from the ashes, remain steadfast in faith, discard fear, and simply move with the cheese per se, yet continue to rise. I dare to venture boldly into this night, seize the comet by the tail, and resume converting tainted lemons, impermanence, into gourmet lemonade. This is the universal secret to success, in which I implore to all. Moreover, I extend my utmost gratitude to my best friend, Sheila Hilton de Toro Forlenza, for acquainting me with such a priceless gift, forever envisioning the desired result, optimal success in every facet, even within chaos itself. Life genuinely is a storm in which we bask in sunshine at some intervals and are shattered upon the rocks during others. However, we withhold the power to decide how to respond in the face of the storms of adversity, which are inevitable to us all. Rather than retreating, face the storm head on because rewards rest beyond its calm. My life experiences, coupled with my ex-husband's recent and tragic demise, has emboldened me to trade mediocrity for opulence and frugality for quality. Yet my integrity has been fortified by pure intentions and higher consciousness. The educational trials Maximo had been stricken with and tried and true schools were entrusted will be resolved by virtue of my spawned epiphany, selfless resolution, incessant travel, and a homeschooling endeavor. I've shaken the dust from my shoulders, as well as my sons, chanted the mantra carpe diem, and struck and purged the concept of never from our thoughts, instead replacing it with until further notice as we embark upon new journeys. Yes. Thank you.
What's the did you squeeze both of those together, or is there the other book too?
Well, so the other would be in this work. Okay. The portal.
The portal.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a good space for that one?
No, sure, absolutely. Mm-hmm. The portal, rendering a sparked epiphany. Chronic fatigue and drenched monsoonal fever plagued me as I arose that subarctic December day. It was just shy of 2 years ago and labored as an utmost disheartening cornerstone of my fortified memory. Nevertheless, I oozed out of my majestic quarters and into an abruptly invigorating shower prior to transporting my beloved son, Maximo, off to primary academia. Upon crossing the threshold of my modest employer, I've been graced by lush and flamboyant poinsettias. Moreover, the tantalizing aroma of gingerbread, coupled with enchanting Christmas hymns, permeated the luminous corridor. Boisterous chatter and guttural laughter emanated betwixt and between colleagues exchanging holiday gifts. Yet I soon discovered that the division of the establishment had been excluded from my division of the establishment, had been excluded from the holiday festivities, despite our figurative blood, sweat, and tears, namely mine, in exchange for my painstaking contributions. My pulse hastened, now proportionate to the discomfort in my upper extremities, and I gasped for air amidst my struggle against stress-induced respiratory affliction. The overwhelming aura of void appreciation consumed me. Meanwhile, I unexpectedly received the disenchanting headline that Maximo had been habitually tormented between school and his evening destination. Hence, the bow had broken and the cake had become instantly frosted, per se. Needless to say, I'd harnessed the audacity to nosedive into my active carpe diem persona and bade my employer farewell. My unprecedented healthy leap of faith has suddenly been activated. Therefore, my first heaping dose of selflessness in this budding new chapter had now been scripted. I vividly recall my unwavering belief that I would attract the ultimate opportunity, which encompassed flexibility and prosperity. Therefore, the platinum endeavor would afford me the priceless option of single-handedly retrieving my son from school while yielding ample revenue. The abominable thought of further subjecting my son to after-school bullying alongside serving a complacent and unappreciative employer served as the catalyst for acquiring my customized undertaking within a mere 30-day span. Then, lo and behold, by the grace of God, the Creator, my abundant aspiration had been achieved. In hindsight, I acknowledge that vast and varied members of my circle had deemed me disillusioned. However, my sound intentions, congruent to my vibrant vision and devotion to my higher power, enabled a sweet and savory manifestation. In layman's terms, I made the decision to jump. Yes, to jump, in light of the purest rationale, my son and myself, in that precise order. I segued from one contract assignment to another, successfully completing each project, swinging from project vine to project vine like a female Tarzan. In the midst of my plethora of feats, I'd landed into an exclusive women's challenge, spearheaded by my esteemed friend and spiritual sister, Bridget Burns Shirasuba. You know who you are. What commenced as a fitness challenge had morphed into a humanitarian one. In summary, Bridget employed the members to sow seeds and deeds over an agreed interval. Given the season, I'd adopted to challenging myself to rendering a deed a day until Mother's Day, and literally branded it as such. Although opportunity and capital had abundantly surfaced, I hadn't struck oil, not at all. However, I committed to another decision, to plunge yet again, sowing a variety of tangible and intangible seeds and deeds, including Wounded Warrior projects, donations, Harris Teeter Hero surveys, a post office food drive, and aiding fellow single mothers, to name a few. However, the sheer gratification yielded from each non-begrudging humanitarian effort was second to none. Unbeknownst to me, I'd opened a portal to an ocean of unanticipated reward and growth. My entire life and lifestyle had graduated overnight. This stemmed from replacing a dated domestic jalopy with a pristine import and beyond. The overall portrait had been unveiled, confirming the notion that all of my earnest energy, lion-hearted efforts, and unfaltering gratitude dipped in benevolence had not been in vain. Therefore, a newfound epiphany had been birthed into fruition. One of the keys to the universe is found via rendering engulfed in gratitude. Rendering engulfed in gratitude. Aha. This is the rationale behind the cascading waterfall of blessings and redemption flowing into my life since that turning point. This has continued in excess of 2 consecutive years. Hence, my personalized formula and/or recipe for abundant blessings and fulfillment is as follows. Abundant blessings and fulfillment equals rendering times sound intention times incessant gratitude times benevolence times infinity. Yet upon expending infinite time and resource, I've deduced that it's critical to grant myself permission to recharge and regroup in lieu of endless authentic giving. Thus, habitual recalibration, reconfiguration, and celebration rests at my disposal. Indeed, at my very fingertips, bearing the guise of well-warranted, modest, and opulent treasures in which I silently indulged. Then, and especially now, redemption magnified. You have it.
And now
recalibrating the scales. Okay. Recalibrating the scales. Temperate and dew-laden monsoonic breezes graced her demure face, bearing the countenance of Egyptians meshed, mated, and mingled with fraternizing Cherokee. Unrelenting sunbeams induced a cherry wood hue from the crown of her forehead to the twin pedestals below. Sifting through the rouge soil at this intentionally sculpted oasis, each peppermint-infused sip of herbal vitality replenished her feeble spirit, annihilating her prior to fatigue amid verbal tangos unfolding among newfound acquaintances as children frolicked through manicured honeysuckle terrain. Mothers-in-waiting devoured intricate house frappés comprised of elderberry, embossed with plantains, homespun honey, and cherry garnish. High vernacular poured from personalized parchment and evaporated into dense country air engulfing this paradisal venue. Tickling the mockingbird and rousing flamboyant cardinals, whispering clandestine greetings and salutations from expired loved ones, silently confirming her safekeeping. Recalibrating the scales. Yes.
And does this take us to dreams undeferred?
Oh, yes, indeed. Dreams undeferred, okay. Dreams undeferred, prophecy fulfilled. Dedicated to Harold Lefty Williams and fellow dreamers worldwide. No. 9. Niet. Ne. No. Are but a few ways they plagued me with the decline. Yet I siphoned the remnants of my battered and weathered spirit, compounded by the insult, amplified with the injury spawned by old man winter, inducing the ill harmonic song of a snarling Arctic wind pummeling my ears, devouring my naked hands, just desperately seeking, searching, yearning for the summer solstice to thaw and melt my frigid disposition. My effervescent fervor, energy waning, I harnessed the nerve to genuflect, casting an upward gaze, devotedly paying homage to Father, Father hovering above, within, and below. Despite the painstaking shrills of the faithless, uttering the mantra of my projected defeat, yielded by the campaign, fostered by the audacity to dream. However, I re-enter the ring, the arena, disrobing, discarding the tattered cloak, saturated, drenched, stained with the saline tears shed by virtue of ritually petitioning for welcome redemption. Suddenly, the sun fiercely pierces billowing clouds, illuminating, igniting my faltering hope, annihilating, consuming, taking precedence over the stench of failure, evoking the score. Welcome redemption at last. There we are.
Well, that was our reading schedule.
Yes.
Hey, listeners, don't forget to subscribe to email if you haven't already. Do this at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. And if you are a new subscriber, look for the magazine coming up. You can get a free download as a new subscriber. That's dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. Thanks so much, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Remember, you are a superstar.